The On Target Institute presents a teaching from the Men on Target small group curriculum. Now with today's session, On Target founder Vince D'Acchioli.
Hello, man, and how you doing? Welcome to Module 6, Session 43. If you've been watching these sessions, you know the last couple of sessions we've been dealing with a man and his work. We unpacked part 1 and part 2 of A Man and His Work. And in this session, we're going to be talking about Leadership 101. It really could be titled A Man and His Work Part 3, by the way, because you're a leader whether you want to be or not. And many of you are leaders and managers and in prominent positions in the workplace. It's very important that we understand these principles. Again, a reminder to go to otm.co and download the handouts for these important sessions under On Target Institute downloadable resources. Okay, let's get into it. Leadership 101. I want to talk about what I call the 4 pillars of leadership. This is a teaching I developed probably 30, 40 years ago, and I really love some of the ideas that we're going to be sharing with you. You are a leader, as I mentioned, whether you want to be or not. You can't say, well, hey, don't look at me as a role model, because guys, we're all role models. People are watching us. We talked about that in the last session. Here's a quote. All of the great leaders have had one characteristic in common. It was the willingness to confront unequivocally the major anxiety of their people in their time. This and not much else is the essence of leadership. John Kenneth Galbraith said that. Here's another powerful quote. Listen to this. The art of leadership consists in consolidating the attention of the people against a single adversary and taking care that nothing will split up that attention. The leader of genius must have the ability to make different opponents appear as if they belong to one category. Who said that? Adolf Hitler. And so we can see that leadership can be applied in a very good way, and it can also be applied in a very evil way. But it's very important. If when we unpack these 4 pillars, I think you'll see the right way to look at leadership. I begin with pillar number 1, titled Character. The best index to a person's character is A, how he treats people who can't do him good, and B, how he treats people who can't fight back. Abigail Van Buren said that. Romans 5:3-5, not only so, but we also rejoice in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. It goes on to say, and hope does not disappoint us because God has poured out his love into our hearts by the Holy Spirit, whom he has given us. And guys, listen, what's inside of us often comes out where we're going through times of struggle, and that's called our real character. We can fake it sometimes. In fact, there's a quote that says, sometimes your gifts can take you places where your character can't keep you. So it's very important that we begin by keeping our character right, by allowing our heart to be transformed so that there's good stuff in us all the time. And then when the chips are down, that's the stuff that comes out. The next pillar I titled Discipline. Discipline can be taken at a couple of different levels. Ecclesiastes 12:13 says this, now all has been heard, here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commands. Now, it goes on to say, for this is the whole duty of man. Now get this, guys. Do you know when that was written? That's the very last verses in the book of Ecclesiastes. Everything leading up to that time, Solomon spent whining about the futility of life. And he is the most wise person that we know in all of the Bible. We should pay attention when he says something. And what is he saying here? He says, the conclusion of the matter, now that I've done all this whining, it all boils down to 2 things. Fear God, and that doesn't mean cower in a corner, men, and be afraid of God. It means being in awe of God, loving God, and then keep his commands. So at the first level, the discipline has to be for you and me, to be disciplined, to keep his commandments. Very, very important. Oswald Chambers has a great quote. He says, God will not reveal more truth about himself until you have obeyed what you already know. So obedience is very important. But in an outward sense, we also have to understand discipline by how we are disciplining those that are around us, whether it's our children or people in the workplace. We need to make sure we're communicating clear boundaries. People need to have clear boundaries. Do you enforce rules in the workplace and in your family fairly? Are you the same? Because at the end of the day, people will feel more secure when you are enforcing the rules and that there's discipline in your life, inwardly and ultimately outwardly. Now, the next pillar is titled vision. Now, before I get into that, let me just tell you a quick story, and it has to do with something that happened to me many, many years ago. I met a woman who was a very high-level executive with a company called Nordstrom's, and some of you may remember that company or know that company. She told me a story one day that so captivated me, where they invited a bunch of executives from a very well-known organization to come to their headquarters in the Pacific Northwest to have a luncheon, and they were seated around the table, and one of the executives from this other retailer, I won't mention their name, but they're huge, he asked the head person from Nordstrom's this question. He said, "We've been watching you, and you guys are amazing. People coming from all over the world to study what you're doing. If you could distill all the things you do down into one or two simple concepts that would best illustrate the secret to your success, what would they be?" And the Nordstrom's executive didn't answer the question straight away. He excused himself, said, "I'll be right back." He went into another room and he retrieved a large leather-bound book, brought it back and opened it and laid it before the executive from this other company. The book, written 120 years ago, was the original operational manual for this man's company. Oh my gosh. What was he saying? He was saying, hey, listen, we do everything that it says in that book. You had it and you let it get away. You lost your first love. In Texas, they'd say, you ain't dancing with the one who brung you, Listen, the Bible says that where there is no vision, the people perish. In the NIV, I love this. Now, NIV, it says, where there's no revelation, the people cast off restraint. It's been said that if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And sadly, without vision and God's vision in our life, especially, that's what happens. But vision is very, very important. Let me give you an example of my own life. Years ago, when we first got married, now about 50 years ago, I wanted a van. I wanted this van so bad. It was the coolest van you ever saw. Big mag wheels on it, all decked out on the inside, and I wanted it to tow a little ski boat we had. And I wanted to go buy it. And we came $30 short of being able to make the payments. And $30 in those days would probably be $300 today. So I was frustrated. But I figured something out. I was smoking like 4 packs of cigarettes a day. I was really not living a very good life back then. And cigarettes back then were like 25 cents a pack, if you can believe it. They're like $5 now. But I figured out if I could stop smoking, I could save 25 cents a pack, 4 packs a day, $1 a day. That's $30 a month. And I went to my wife and I said, honey, if I quit smoking, we could afford that van. And she, that's a great idea. I said, great, let's go get it. And then she said, no, you stop smoking first. And I thought, oh man. But you know what? I wanted that van so bad. I put up a 4-pack a day habit. I put it down that Sunday night. I've never picked up another cigarette since that time. Listen guys, if you want something bad enough, you'll do what it takes to get there. Having a vision and a mission is very, very important. A vision is the end state. A mission is what am I going to do to get there, and it affects our behavior. Vision. Very important that you get God's vision. Michelangelo was asked how he was able to carve these great masterpieces, He says, I'm not sure how it works exactly, but I seem to be able to catch the vision for the beauty of the statue. And once I get the vision, I just chip away what doesn't belong. And guys, that's why it's so important to ask God every day to show you His plan, His vision for your life. And then the fourth one, the fourth pillar is simply love. And in order to unpack this, let me tell you just really quick story. I was in an all African American church one time speaking, and I was telling them that how much I was really tired of all the attempts we've made to bring about racial reconciliation. We're trying to legislate it, we're trying to talk about it, and nothing seems to be working. And I asked them to bow their heads and to think of anybody that they know, anybody that's radically in love with Jesus. And if you get that person in your mind, they're radically in love with Jesus, I want you to raise your hand really high if you can think of one person like that that has a racist bone in their body. And guys, I've never had a hand go up anywhere. And I reminded them of the two greatest commandments. What are they? In Matthew 22, it says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. And the idea here, guys, is they're in that order for a reason. Love the Lord your God, and that enables us to love my neighbor as myself. That's how you deal with racial reconciliation. That's how you deal with hurting the wounds in our culture today. How did Jesus do it? Study how Jesus led, and you will see that it was all people-centered. Love is action. It's charity. And in the Bible, it even talks about that, showing care and concern for people. And so it's very important that you understand character. Here's the four pillars: discipline, vision, and finally, love. Very, very important. Life implication. Listen, I am leading whether I want to be or not. Remember that. And understanding the four pillars is essential to becoming a godly leader. It really is, guys. Life application, again, on a scale of 1 to 5, how are you doing in these four areas? Would you be seen as a man of character? When you're going through tough stuff, what comes out of you? Are you spending time getting close to God so that He can transform your heart from the inside out? That's the way man needs to be transformed, from the inside out. How about discipline? Do you have discipline in your life, and do you apply that fairly to the people who are in your life? And vision, are you asking God? Do you have God's vision for your life? That is what is driving you and pulling you forward? And then finally, are you a lover? Do you love people? Are you so close to God that He enables you to see others, listen, through His eyes? Very important, guys. I pray that you have a wonderful discussion and that God visit you profoundly during this time. And until next time, don't forget about it.